Okay, I couldn't resist. Little fun after the first presidential debate last night. Did not get to watch it. I was out, not at home to see it. But decided to try something a little different, a little new. You know about me, trying to experiment with things. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and flip things around a little bit. By flip, I mean take a few minutes to post this video instead of having to teach it during class. And then during class, we could actually do something a little more interesting, a little more fun. Okay, so this video is going to be about the roles of the president. Today in class, we talked about the president and some of the details about, his qualifications and things, just the basic stuff. But here, we're going to start talking about the important things, the real job of the president and what he does and the different things he does. There's so many different things that he does. It's mind-boggling how he can get it done. And right now, we've got two primary candidates who are trying to get this job. It's personally a job I would never want because it's just so much to do. I thought I'm overwhelmed now teaching and spending my time with all of you, but I couldn't imagine having to be at the beck and call of the entire nation. But you'll learn more about that in U.S. history next year. But first, let's talk about the different roles of the president. The president has many roles. There are eight roles of the president. And if you don't mind, I'm going to click over here. I've got another computer over here to the side where I have some information that I want to make sure I don't forget to put in to tell you. All right. The first and most important role of the president, of course, is as chief executive. The president is the head of the federal executive branch of the government, and so his main job as chief executive is to carry out the laws. And he doesn't make the laws. Remember, the legislative branch makes the laws. So what he does is he makes sure that the laws that the government, that the legislature has made, that Congress has made, get implemented. Now, not all the details are in the laws that Congress makes, so sometimes it's up to the different agencies and departments that the president has in order to make some of those rules and things. We'll talk about that later. That falls under kind of the idea of administrative law. So we'll worry about that. You've encountered some of that, for example, when you go like to the Department of Motor Vehicles. You got to fill out this form, you got to stand in this line, you have to meet these requirements. Those weren't all in, say, the bills that were passed, but it's kind of the administrative part of how they're going to carry out that law. Okay. As president, as chief executive, he is the head of a big bureaucracy that deals with all of those different departments, and he also is able to issue executive orders. It's not the same as a law, but an executive order kind of has the power of a law. He kind of can boss around the people in his bureaucracy, tell them what to do and what they should and shouldn't do. Make sure you enforce this, or make sure that you overlook that, or something like that. Okay, so that's one of the important things about the president as chief executive. Okay, another role is that of chief diplomat. The president has to deal with not just people in the United States and carrying out our laws, but how do we get along with other nations? How do other nations get along with us? This is really important on a number of different things. Of course, you know about national security, war, terrorism, that type of stuff, but also our economy. The economy of the world is becoming more and more interrelated, and so making sure that trade flows more easily kind of helps keep prices down here and makes our economy actually more smoothly. If we can export things to other countries and they can buy our stuff, it kind of helps our businesses here at home. And if other countries are able to import things to us, then we have more things to choose from, and we're a country that's all about having more freedom to make choices. And so this kind of helps right along with that. So he directs foreign policy, which means he's in charge of all the diplomats and the ambassadors to other countries that negotiate with the leaders of the other countries and things that maybe we want or kind of need. So that's part of his role there. He's also can make agreements with other countries, promise to help them out if something goes wrong, but nothing with too much detail. The details come if the president's making a treaty. The problem with making a treaty is that treaties don't automatically go into effect. Treaties have to be approved by the Senate, and so it kind of slows the process down. And also, the president has to be careful not to make agreements and treaties that he can't keep. That's why he usually, if he can, he sticks to executive agreements because they're a little more vague and therefore gives the Senate some wiggle room to really figure out how we're going to live up to these agreements with the other countries. Okay, let's see. He also has the power to influence the behavior of other countries through trade. We do we are the largest economy in the world. China may have more people, but we actually do more as far as buying and selling stuff is concerned. As a result, the American dollar is very powerful. The choice to withhold the American dollar, that is to not buy stuff from a particular country, really could cripple the economy and the businesses that are in that nation. So sometimes it's in their best interest to work well with us. We could also be involved in embargoes, and that's kind of getting other countries on board as well to kind of like boycott a whole other country. If you remember boycott from when we talked about the history before the American Revolution, where the colonists boycotted British goods. If the United States could get other countries on board, say, hey, we're going to boycott goods from a particular country that's not playing fair, like right now the United States has got a boycott going on of North Korea, trying to get North Korea to play fair as far as, or play nice with regard to the creation of nuclear weapons and nuclear materials. So the trade is a very important tool that the United States has at its disposal. Okay, the United States, the president is also considered the commander-in-chief. Now, we know the president doesn't have the power to declare war, but the president does have the power, the authority to command or order the troops into battle, especially once war has been declared. Even though a president may have had military experience, may have actually been a high-ranking military officer, say President Grant after the Civil War, or President Eisenhower in the late 1950s. They were both generals in the American Army, but still, they don't have all the intelligence themselves to know what's going on. So the president especially relies on a lot of information coming from the heads of the militaries, which is called the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So the highest admirals in the Navy and generals in the Army and the Air Force and the Marines, they give a lot of input. And that's really one of the main important parts of the Pentagon, giant, super defended, reinforced office building, which is really primarily all about the military, okay, and what goes on there. Okay, so he does have the power to move troops around and command them, and where should we attack, where shouldn't we attack, but he usually leaves most of that up to his Joint Chiefs of Staff and the advisors. He just pretty much gives them the go or the no-go when they say this is what should or shouldn't be done. He does have the ability to move soldiers around the world when we're in times of peace, to, say, help with recovery from an earthquake or a tsunami, say, in Japan or maybe in Haiti. That's not a military conflict, but it's kind of a goodwill gesture. And this could have been part of an executive agreement. Remember the chief diplomat role there. An executive agreement saying, we'll pledge to help you if such and such happens or if something goes wrong. And so this is something the president can do without the permission of the Senate or the House of Representatives, because no war is being declared. Okay. The president is also the legislative leader. In this way, he kind of has the ability to introduce bills to Congress, and then Congress can decide to take up those bills and try and get them worked into a law where they would eventually come back to the president to sign, or if he didn't like it, it's his own law, if he didn't like it, the way Congress worked on it, he could veto it as well. He also gives the State of the Union address every year. This is in the Constitution. He's required to do this. And basically lays out his plan. What does he think he'd like to see the country go? What kind of direction in the upcoming year? What is his emphasis as far as we need to focus more money on education, or we need to focus more on development of natural resources, so on. And therefore, he's kind of guiding or giving hints, not so subtle hints, as to what he thinks Congress should be working on. Let's see. I'm gonna get these in good. He's also the chief judiciary, or the judicial leader. Remember, the judicial branch is about the court system and trying to impose justice. The judicial branch, they interpret the laws. They act kind of like the referee, if you will, of when different conflicts arise with people and the law. He has the ability to appoint judges, not just to the Supreme Court, but any federal judge he gets to appoint. Of course, the Senate has to approve it, a little check and balance there, but there are some other checks and balances that I'm going to ask you to look for later on, actually using the Constitution itself. But that's just a little hint I'm dropping there for you. He can also pardon people of convicted of federal crimes. Usually a president won't pardon somebody until they're leaving office. So after someone is not elected again, or their second term is coming to an end, they will pardon people because, I mean, really, it's not a very popular thing to do for a president in the middle of his term. He's not going to get a whole lot of support by pardoning people who are convicted criminals, saying, all right, you can go out there. I know you did something wrong, but I forgive you, so go and live your life free. So usually they'll wait to the end of their term when they're not really worried about or care too much about what the public thinks about them, because they don't have to be reelected at this point. They can also grant amnesty, which is a pardon, if you will, to a whole group of people. Usually this comes in the form of usually hear about this more about people coming into the country and trying to gain asylum, which is moving and living in the United States without getting sort of the front of the line of the people being let into the country, because there are limits and quotas and things that the United States put in from different parts of the world, because they have perhaps some political fear from their own country. And so they kind of grant amnesty to them to kind of give them sort of not a free pass, but kind of forgive them for coming into the United States illegally, if you will. The president can also issue a reprieve, and that is if there's a punishment that's being handed down by the courts, then the president can kind of take a time out and say, you know what, how about we delay this penalty, delay this punishment for now. Maybe there's some more things that we think should be investigated. And so until we have more information, we should just kind of hold off. We're not saying you're getting out scot-free. We're just saying, let's put this off for now while we find out some more information. Okay, as chief judiciary. Okay. The president is also the economic leader. As economic leader, he kind of sets the tone for what he'd like to see happen in the economy. And as you know, if you're paying any attention to the debates or the commercials, it's all about money these days. And then the economy, since the Great Recession of 2009 took place. Basically, it's his role as the head of the nation to try and make sure that the economy is relatively stable. There are certain things and departments, things at his disposal to get things balanced and leveled out. So he tries to solve many economic problems using those tools. And some of those we won't get to until we get to the economics portion of the course. Just know that he's the guy, he kind of guides it. He also guides as well when he makes the budget annually. The budget is sort of symbolizes what programs and what things the president thinks are important, and he'll put more money towards that, and things that he thinks are not as important, and he won't put as much money to that. He might take money from that from one year to the next. And this way, he's kind of sending a message saying, this is more important than that. So that also goes into his social programs. Okay. He is also the head of state. As head of state or chief of state, he is the symbol, the human symbol of our country to the rest of the world. He greets foreign ambassadors. He does a lot of symbolic things. There's no real power that comes with being the chief of state. It's just a symbolic role. And as the leader of our nation, he's the face of our nation as well. I mean, you don't have to agree with whoever the president is. You don't have to like him, whatever. But either way, he is the face of the United States to the rest of the world. Okay. He is also the party leader, as in political party. The president holds the highest office in the country. He also, therefore, holds the highest office of any member of his party. And so, typically speaking, usually when the president is... usually when the president has a goal for his political party or a goal himself, the political party will then pick it up and try and make it happen for the president. It becomes a lot easier if members of Congress are the same political party as the president. If both houses of Congress are the same as the president, then he can get things done pretty easily. If they're not, one house is, one house isn't, then you run into some other problems about being blocked or vetoed, or things won't be as easy to do. It kind of forces the president to try and work with the other political party if Congress isn't made up majority, both houses of his party. So, for example, President Obama is a Democrat. In the first 2 years of his term, both the Senate and the House were majority Democrat. So it's pretty easy for him to get things done. In the most recent 2 years, the House of Representatives was a majority Republican, and the Senate is a majority Democrat. So a lot of things that he wants to get done, he really has to work with Republicans to get through the House of Representatives. He can't just say, hey, it's all Democrats or mostly Democrats, so they'll do what I want anyway because I'm the party leader. Right? So party leader just kind of gives guidance to what he thinks where the party should go and the issues that they think are important. Okay, that's about it about the roles of the president. Probably took me a little longer than I wanted to. This is the first video I've made, so my goal is to try and get it down within about 10 minutes of time. So this way it kind of reduces the amount of time at home that you need to worry about, like reading and taking notes and that kind of thing. Let's see if we can't get away from the textbook a little bit and try and figure other ways. I'm not saying we'll abandon the textbook for everything, but there'll be some things that this way we won't necessarily need the textbook for everything. All right. Great. Thanks for taking the time to watch this. I hope this is a success, but we'll give it a shot. All right. Be ready for this when we get back to school next day, and we'll talk about it. I'll definitely have to make sure to see who has and who hasn't actually watched the video, so be on the lookout for that. All right, thanks. Have a good night.